Demand suddenly skyrocketed. You all saw it.
And it's gone.
Hi everyone, I'm the Broken Meeple. Win or lose, I'm going to be honest with you. And for crying out loud, what is it with this game? This is Tenby. And just to give you a bit of context, the first I heard about this game was Essen last year. And by heard of it, I mean I saw it on the table at Mighty Board's stall. And then that was the last I heard of it. In the sense that that was the last you ever saw of it. Because it flew off the shelves so damn quickly that it sold out in barely like the first day. And then at the expo, I had to grab this as a pre-show start copy off the Waterstones branch with God knows how many other exhibitors and creators now who also did the same thing just to get a copy. Otherwise, it flew off the stands so damn fast that you could not even blink, and you would blink and miss it. This thing has just been selling like crazy in the UK, yet for some reason I see pictures in America where it's still on the shelf at a relatively cheap price and still there.
You have my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
It was just uncanny, I just did not know. I barely played like 5 minutes of it. I'd seen like a demo of it briefly, and that was all the exposure I had to it. So all this time I have been trying to figure out what is it about this game that has made everybody go into like hardcore FOMO mode to get themselves a copy. I didn't even know what Tenby was before this game existed. It's a small little town in Wales. And, well, I've never been to Tenby, I never even knew of its existence, and frankly I only know 5 things about Wales anyway. I know the Brecon Beacons, I know Snowdonia, I know that, that Welsh can definitely be quite stubborn at times. Trust me, my sister-in-law's like that. I know that you have way too many 20-mile-an-hour speed limits, and I know that your language looks like a bit like you're a cultist to Cthulhu. I mean, that's basically my knowledge of Wales, okay?
Your mother.
Wales is great, right? But it's just, that's it. So I had to find out what this was about. Not a review copy, I grabbed one at the expo because I was determined to find out what it is about this game that has caused everybody to go completely nuts.
Broadcast on all known frequencies and in all known languages, including Welsh.
So the idea of Tenby is very simple. It's a tableau card game where you are building up streets in front of you to make up your town, and these streets will score based on the cards that you slot in it. It's very similar to another little card game by Empress 4 I still have on my shelf called Walking in Burano, where you were building up coloured houses, and the idea was that you built up these houses so that not only the colours matched, but also so that you could get points for all the different little symbols that are on there, like birds and chimneys and plant pots and stuff like that. Well, this is very much the same type of feel, just going horizontal rather than vertical. The idea is that it plays over 10 rounds. Each round is effectively the same. You will have a player piece, and based on randomness in the first round, but on choice in the next rounds, you will have your player piece on one of these night cards. This simulates the turn order for picking up the day card. The day card are these. So these day cards will be ordered in number of ascending order, and they have a different number of actions on them. They'll get you these life ring tokens, which you cash in for other actions, or they'll let you pick up cards from the display. And the idea is that you will decide, well, you know what, I fancy this particular one, okay? And then you fancy that, and you fancy that. And then the ring will go on the one that's left over for next round, but then this dictates the turn order for the current round. So whoever went on the lowest sun value will get to go first, and they'll resolve all the actions on the card. So in this case, this dolphin player gets 2 life rings and gets to pick up a terrace card. Later on, this purple player gets to pick up a terrace card and 1 objective card, you know, 1 sort of person objective card, as it were. And red player gets to pick up a landmark as well as a terrace. So there are basically different actions on these cards, but they all resolve around picking up these terrace, pier, and landmark, which you're essentially using to build up your street. So you have a starter card to begin with, and you can tell at the sides that they have a building or, you know, the sky, which dictates that only certain cards can go to the left or right. But let's say I pick up a house here and a pier here, and let's say another house here. So the house edges, I could put this one next to there. I could put this one next to there, and because there's sky on the edge of it, I could put this pier card next to it, and my street continues. There's no limit to how big the street can be, but until you cap it off with some of these little tick cards, you can't actually finish the street, and this means it won't score as well. But the idea is that all these cards have got different scoring conditions at the bottom of them, and they might be for the cards next door to them, 2 cards next door to them, or the entire street, depending on what it is. But for example, what I've got down here is this card lets me do 2 points for every lamppost to the side of it, okay? 1 point for every seagull to the side of it, 2 points for every different colour house to the side of me, and then, you know, that's to the side, but then a landmark card here gives you 2 points for every lamppost on your street. This one here gives you 2 points for every bin within 2 spaces. And that's kind of what you're doing with your street. You're trying to build up in such a way that you will score as many points as you can for all these different little conditions that are on the cards. They also have different types, like a home card, a business card, which is more relevant for little objective cards that you can collect, that you can score for at the end of the game. But that's essentially how each round plays. Once you've finished with all the picking up the actions, all the cards get scrapped and refreshed, and then basically in order of the day cards, you will end up on these night cards again. You'll refresh these with new action cards, and basically you rinse repeat. So somebody will pick this particular card, this particular card, this particular card, and so forth. And you go through each of the rounds, you get through to the 10th round, and you total up the score from all your streets, and of course, the one with the most.
Of course!
So yeah, not a lot to explain really. I mean, you know, the other little bits is that you've got some objectives that you can potentially score for at the end of the game, and you've got these personal objectives, which are basically like personal objectives that you can score for. So private objectives and public objectives. But other than that, yeah, the game is pretty straightforward to get the concept across to people, and it's not a difficult game to teach either. The rulebook itself is fine. I think there's maybe a bit too much text overall. I mean, there is some pictorial examples, but blimey, you know, the text is fairly small, and you do have to read quite a bit of it in order to get everything down, although some of this is the solo rules. In fact, to be honest, to give you an idea of what sort of game this is, all of that is basically the solo mode. You know, so everything up to about page 21 is the multiplayer, and then the other 11 odd pages after that is entirely solo. So they do put quite a bit of effort into going into the solo mode on these ones. But despite the, you know, smorgasbord of text, it's not a tricky game to understand, and when you pick this up again after a while, you do have a nice quick guide which gets you sort of into the setup quick, reminds you of the key things you need to know, and has a nice icon guide on the back. I mean, most of the icons are just if it scores for it, it does, but there's 1 or 2 and they're on here, so it's easy enough to tell. The gameplay itself, pretty straightforward. I mean, I like the, you know, building of my street. You know, they've got made up names for some of the houses, like never a whole day, you know, and it's like cheesy little jokes like that. But the artwork in that is very pleasant. You know, it's a very basic style of art. It's just charming. You know, you've got smiling clouds, you've got little birdies, you've just got nice looking houses. And I've never been to Tenby. I mean, does it look like this? I don't know, but you know, certainly, cool, blimey, this game's going to do something for its tourist trade, I can tell you that. But yeah, it's just a nice aesthetic on the table. Lots of blue. If blue is your favorite color, you're going to get an absolute kick out of this. The sort of gameplay itself, you know, pretty decent. You know, you've got some decisions to make with regards to your turn order, especially this idea of picking the action cards based on the actions within, and also when you'll go in the turn. It's all right saying, well, I'll take the one with the highest sun value because that gets me 5 actions. That's a lot of cards, but you only have so many laid out for each session. I mean, I laid out enough there at the start of the video. I think for a 2-player game, you'll get 1 extra in each pile for every player count above that, but those cards can go very quickly, and you do really have to balance out the idea that I could take a bunch of cards, but if there's cards in the display that I really want, that would be really good for me, I should consider taking less actions and going first, even though I don't get to take as many. And it's like, what are my opponents likely to do? Are they likely to grab those? I don't know. Although, don't feel like you're going to be staring at each other's tableau trying to work out if they would take specific cards or not, because there's too much information on the table for you to be able to do that, and you would need to have zoom glasses to be able to know exactly what everybody else is scoring for, so don't worry about that. But, you know, you've got this cool decision space with the turn order, and then you've got the cool, like, manipulation of the cards to put them in your street. Typically, once you've built them, they're fixed, but there is a certain way with the life ring tokens to basically go, I'm going to put this one in this street instead. As long as you meet the restrictions of the placement, it's not a problem. You can score in a lot of different ways, but it's basically symbol counting at the end of the day? Am I counting the bins, seagulls, coloured houses, lampposts, you know, lobster boxes, you know, you name it, there's a thing that scores for it in here. You know, windows, porches, doors, clouds, is that everything can go in here. And it's generally quite a smooth experience. It doesn't feel like it grinds its gears too much, but there is a little bit of a flaw with the player scaling side of things. This game does quote 15 minutes a player and 1 to 5 players. Okay, first of all, I have played this solo several times. It is physically impossible, even if you ignore setup entirely, to play this game in 15 minutes as a solo player. You cannot go through the game that bloody fast, okay? You have 10 rounds. That is assuming that you spend no more than a minute on each round pretty much, because you're going to need some time to be able to score. We'll get on that later. Yeah, that is a very optimistic time frame on the box. But 1 to 5 players, the main way it scales is that it adds more cards to the display, but mainly it just adds time. And this is one of the Achilles heel of this game. It really does drag when you up the player count, because the sort of curve in terms of, you know, how much longer it takes for the number of players is somewhat exponential, really, because it's not just a case of, oh, it's one other person to take a turn. Bear in mind your turn order isn't static. So you might go first in one round, you might go last in the next, so it could be a while before you're actually taking cards for your town. But also, because there's loads of cards in the middle when you get loads of players, you're going to get 2 problems with this. Firstly, if you're going 4th or 5th, say, in a 5-player game, 5-player game, sorry, then you're going to basically look at a bunch of these cards, and by the time it gets round to you, most of them are going to be gone. So when do you even start looking at the cards? But then you're also going to get those people who have to play every single card game, regardless of what type it is, like this. If you're one of those people, stay the ever-living...
John Spartan, you are fined 1 credit for a violation of the verbal morality statute.
...away from this game, because, wow! You will drag this game out like crazy. You know, when you put in too many players, the amount of time it takes people to look over all the cards and then reassess their situation when the cards they won't get taken. I mean, you need plan A, B, C, D, F, all the way down to Z in order to be able to cope with this. And it makes each round, especially when you get to the sort of 6th to 10th round, you know, when your street is getting, well, your streets are getting somewhat populated, it really does slow down to the point where that 15 minutes a player is absolute rubbish. You know, this game can easily take you a good 90 minutes to finish with the maximum player count. And I know that doesn't sound like the longest game ever, but trust me, that is a long time for a game of this nature. And that's 90 minutes not including the teach and setup. So you're adding more on top of that. Seriously, I mean, 5 players, just roll the clip.
5 is right out.
Yeah, it really is not the way to play this game. In fact, I won't even really play this game with 4 ever again. This is honestly a 1 to 3 player game for me. Now, with a 1 to 3 player game, you can keep this to about an hour, 75 minutes, you know, reasonably well. And the solo mode shouldn't take you too long. You know, about 30, 45 minutes, I would say, is more likely than 15. But, you know, the solo mode plays out pretty much like a multiplayer game, except you have this sort of mechanic where you choose one of your day cards out of a couple, and then the AI deck gets their card. That determines the turn order, they dictate which cards they nick off the display, and you're basically trying to do well and beat your own score by choosing what cards are left depending on the turn order. But you suffer penalty points for taking cards that the AI would have taken had they had their go first. So you do have to balance out whether you really want that card or whether it's worth just leaving it there and letting it be scrapped. The solo mode is just nice and simple, and honestly, it's probably the best way to play this game, honestly, because when you have multiplayer, you don't really have any player interaction in this game other than the choosing of this and which cards get taken. So it's just a blocking mechanism, which honestly, this deck of cards that basically does that for you will simulate a player just fine. So I'll play this with 2 or 3. I won't play this with 4 or 5, but honestly, I'd rather just play it solo. That seems to be the way. It's not... There's also a little bit of a worry with the way that the game gives you a lot of different ways to deal with the objectives. I mean, you've got one variant in the game where after the 9th round, you trash a card. After the 9th round, you get a new card from the deck of your choice and you can put it in for free. That causes a bit of a drag on the game because you're waiting for everybody to think about where it can go, but it also seems a bit random. Like, you just randomly get another card straight from the deck, and as a result, you might just get the perfect card, you might get rubbish. So I just choose not to use that variant. But then you get to these objectives, the accolades, and I mean, they're objectives. How hard can it be to do objectives, right? There are, and I'm not joking here, 3 variants for how to use them in the multiplayer game. And there are 1, 2, 3 variants to use them in the solo. So essentially 6 ways to use what is essentially public objectives. So you've got like just layout free, you've got ones where they sort of disappear over time, you've even got one that's a bit like terraforming Mars where you have to spend life rings to activate to them and it gets more expensive to activate them. I mean, they are public objectives for crying out loud. You know, I'm always like, cool, yes, we can have different ways to play or a bit of variety. But I always wince a little bit when I see all these different variants in the book because that doesn't tell me that the game had a lot of variety in it. That tells me that the designer didn't know how to play his own game. And so he basically just went, all right, well, here's a bunch of ways you could do it. Just pick one. Do it you like, because I can't be bothered to tell you how it should be played. It's, yeah, and certainly, like, the accolades, you can complicate them as you like, but just deal out free and say they're public objectives. It keeps the game simple. You don't need weird fancy ways of doing it. It's just not necessary.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Production quality is pretty good. I mean, you will not be able to sleeve this game and use the storage function that they use. You'll be able to fit it in the box if you sleeve it, but honestly, there are so many cards here, and they're all small. If you sleeve these, you will have a pile that is unwieldy. I don't think you need to sleeve this game, honestly, because you don't hold them in your hand. You only shuffle them in terms of starting a game. Otherwise, they are sliding around your table and getting used, but it's pretty decent card stock. It's not flimsy, it's sturdy, so I'm choosing not to sleeve this, and honestly I think you can get away with it fine. But it also means you can use the cool storage solution that they've got, because essentially the box comes with that usual cardboard insert that you normally chuck away the instant that you see it. Don't do it on this occasion, because all of these cards jam nicely, like firmly, into these little tuck boxes, of which there are 4 of them, and the idea is I'm just going to close them as they are, but you get the 4 boxes, and they slot in there. So there's 2 of them, and the other 2 go in there. So you can literally turn the thing upside down, store it vertically, horizontally, whatever the hell you want to do with it, and everything will be nice and neat when you get it out. Perfect. Great for travel. I mean, put this in your bag. You are going to need a big table to play this on, so I don't mean travel as in take it on the train. I do mean travel as when you get to your destination. I hope they got a decent sized table, because it does like its table space.
Please excuse the crudity of this model. I didn't have time to build it to scale or to paint it.
So the biggest blemish with the production quality is, despite this cool insert, despite the quality of the cards and the nice pleasurable artwork and stuff like that, despite the fact that there's actually space in the box for you to fit this in, the game does not come with a score pad.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
I'm not joking. It doesn't come with a score pad. And this sort of segues into one of the other problems with this game, the setup and the scoring. Now, some people claim that this game has got a ridiculously long setup time. That's a little bit extreme. It's a long setup time, but I don't think it's excruciatingly long. I mean, Voidfall exists, but that's a very different game. But the idea with this is that you take the cards out of the box, you give them a decent shuffle, and you put them down. And then you just lay out a few for the display. Everybody's got their starter card, and there's a few day and night cards. But it doesn't really take that long to do. What you got to do is basically go, right, well, there's the 4 main decks that we're using. So I'll shuffle these, you shuffle that, you shuffle that, you shuffle that. And then I need 4, 3, 2, there you go, done. And everybody between the group will get it done. And the setup will honestly not take that long. It's mainly just the shuffling. But given that all these cards are, for the most part, unique. There might be the odd bit of repetition, but you won't notice it's repeated or whatever, apart from the scoring condition thing. Then you don't really need to shuffle these that much. Just bundle them together at the end of the game, because they'll still be pretty well mixed, and you will not go through the whole deck. I mean, you won't see all these landmarks, and there's only this many of them. You sure as hell ain't gonna see all of these terraces. There's way too many of them. So honestly, just don't worry too much about it. But yeah, I don't think the setup takes as long as people fancy. What does take a long time, though, is the scoring. Wow. We're not talking Forest Shuffle levels of crazy scoring, but there's a lot. And to have no score pad is unforgivable, because this is a game that scores in various ways. So firstly, you've got to deal with the objectives. Well, there's part of your scoring, but that's a relatively easy one. And then you basically have to score your streets. Your streets have to assess multiple different scoring conditions, which each require distant spatial awareness and require you to count the individual instances, which, you know, the artwork is good, but still, you sometimes might accidentally miss a seagull here and there, or not realize there was a plant pot on that window, or a chimney here or something. So sometimes they are quite small. I mean, you can easily spot a bin or binoculars, but you could easily miss a chimney. It's very small. And, you know, you are basically, you know, this is a small street, okay? You know, your streets, for some objectives or whatever, could potentially be this long, if not longer. You can have a street this long, and that's one street. You could have 3 streets typically by the end of the game, more so if you're making them really short, but you're going to have multiple of these. And you're going to have to go through the scoring without a score pad to basically go, right, I need a blue house to the right of that. Right, there's a blue house, right, that's 3 points. And then a lamppost to the side, right, that's 3 points. So 5 points for that lamppost, 7 points there with that lamppost, right. Now I need every lamppost, sorry, so 7, 9, 11, 20 with it. And you've got to go through it systematically, otherwise you'll get lost. But yeah, if you don't like mental arithmetic, the scoring is going to give you a friggin' headache. And the fact that it doesn't give you a score pad is just stupid. You could have easily fit one in the top of the box, and all you had to do was basically go, right, most people will build 5 streets max in this game, and I do mean absolute max. Typically most people will build 3. All you need is a score pad that basically has player name, public objectives if in use, and then 5 separate rows, 1 for each street. You could put a limit on the game to say that you can't build more than 5 streets, because let's face it, there's no real reason to build 5, you know, more than 5 streets. I rarely see that happen. So it's just like, okay, that would have been an easy score pad. You didn't have to make it super thick. You could make it thin enough to fit on the top of the box, and it would just make life so much easier. But man, yeah, you got to get pen and paper out and do all this, and it's like, it's just, seriously, you could have easily fit it in.
How hard can it be?
So Tenby is a very charming game, but I'm not seeing this whole, oh, it should fly off the shelf within 5 seconds or FOMO thing with it. I mean, I think people maybe need to calm down a little bit. This is a cool little card game by a debut designer, and this guy's done nothing before. He just comes from Tenby and likes the town, so has created a charming little card game, which works fine. I mean, it's enjoyable to get the different cards and build your street, and I like games where you build something up in front of you and go, right, this is what I built, and you can banter with each other about what streets you have. I like the turn sequence thing with the choosing of the action cards. That's a tough decision to make. Do I want to go first, or do I want more actions? And there's definitely a suitable balance of the lot. So, you know, those aspects I do enjoy, and I like the fact that this can be played solo. But it does feel like this is a game that is best played solo. There's not a real reason to have other players in the game, especially when the solo is as smooth as it actually is, and customizable. I mean, you've got different difficulty settings, you've got scenarios you can do and the like, but also because the game length does drag out a bit too much with 4 or 5 players, that you're really capping this at 3. The box is lying out of its teeth about the 15 minutes per player thing, and you do have the element of not being able to really gauge what you want to do on your turn if you're going last, because all the cards are going to be like, it's too much chaos in the display for you to make a plan A, B, C, D. So too many players just spoils this game a lot. Couple that with a reasonably lengthy setup, but not crazy long, and also the sort of long-winded scoring without the score pad, and you do have some blemishes that could easily be fixed, or just, you know, you simply have to accept they're a thing. To make me go, right, you know, I tempered my expectations appropriately with this game, and did not expect this to be like a blow my mind, it's going to fly off the shelf, you must get a copy immediately type thing. I just thought that this would probably be a charming game that I enjoy. And it is a charming game that I enjoy. Walking in Burano does something similar. Which one do I prefer? That is a bit more of a toss-up. I mean, they're kind of on par, really. But, you know, the game is fine. It just has a few issues here and there, to the point where I would still definitely recommend it, but mainly if you're going to play this 1 to 3 players. I'm giving this a 7 out of 10 overall. It's a good game, but good if you're playing this with 1, 2, or 3 players, not if you're going to play this with 4 or 5. It definitely drops to a 6. I would say I would even give this a 5 out of 10 if it's a 5-player game. There is no reason to make the game that long, that chaotic, or anything. 5 is a stupid number they shouldn't have put on the box. But if you're a solo player and you're just occasionally going to play this with your spouse or something like that, you know, you want something relatively simple to play and charming, this game has it. It's got good charming artwork, it's produced well, minus the scorepad and stuff like that, and at 3-player cap, it moves along at a decent enough pace, and you have a little bit of flexibility over what to do in the game, even though I think they give you a little bit too much flexibility as to what they do during the game on certain aspects. So it's a charming card game. I'd say it's worth picking up if you can, you know, worth grabbing a play of this, but don't feel like you have to gun it for the queues to get this at the first possible instance, that it's worth paying overinflated prices for. This is not a game that deserved its FOMO craze that it's had for the last 2 conventions. It's just a decent card game. What's wrong with that? So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up on YouTube and thumb it up on Board Game Geek when it goes live on the page. Don't forget to check out the rest of my content. I've done various card games and that lately. I don't know which order I'll put these out, but you may or may not have got Jackpot Set the Reel up. If not, that'll be the next one, so please be patient. But there's plenty more content to see. Subscribe to the Patreon if you want to help give this channel a little bit of a leg up when I don't get review copies, much like this one. Not a review copy, I grabbed it myself to give you my honest opinion. And, you know, your support makes this channel able to go on because the prices are not getting cheaper when it comes to keeping this thing running. So until next time, remember, it's only a game, and I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple review, or maybe some point in Tenby, if I ever give it a visit. Take care.